Coach Bryant here, coming at you on Groundhog Day with a very timely throwback on how to become an early riser. If you want success in the sport and consistency in training, make sure you give this one a listen. As always, be sure to comment if you have questions, anything regarding this topic that you would like us to answer, and follow us on all the social medias.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Coaches on Couches.
Being slouches.
Today, we are going to talk about a very relevant topic at this time. We're in the dead of winter. So we're going to talk about how to beat the winter blues today.
They're real. The winter blues are real.
Absolutely. I am Coach Dale Sanford.
And I am Coach
Brian Funston. We are the co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunched athletes optimize their busy schedules so they can maximize their athletic performance. Every BPC coach is trained in our 5 pillars coaching system and has been developed over the last decade through our work with athletes of all ages and ability levels, from off the couch, not this particular couch,
Not this couch,
to the World Championship competitor. You can find us at buildpeakcompete.com. Check Facebook and YouTube at buildpeakcompete, or you can check us on Instagram and Twitter at BPC Performance.
all up on that Insta.
We had to start adding in this this little intro.
Dale did not read that. That was from memory.
Yeah,
That was not scripted.
The podcast powers say you need to actually tell people who you are and what you do.
I don't believe it.
No,
I'm not believing it.
neither.
Weigh in for us.
But first,
shout outs.
shout
them out.
all right.
Today's shout out.
Our first shout out today is our buddy William Hennessy.
Boom.
We've been working with William for a little while now, and he was the 25K champion at the Sillamore trail race this past weekend. And it was nasty.
Yeah, it was chilly. It includes river crossings.
Yeah, you cross the creek, Sillamore Creek, within the first 3/4 of a mile or so.
See, so I'm from New Mexico originally, so that's a river. That's actually mightier than the Rio Grande most of the time. What they have to cross.
When you actually have to cross it, I think it was about waist deep.
It was decently high.
It was threatening to be much deeper, but I think the water died down. The creek height died down a little bit.
I think we call that a multi-sport event, right?
Yeah.
A little swim run?
A little swim run. What you got, Funston?
Aqua run? I've got a non-shout out. Shout at. Oh, wait, sorry. We got one more. Crossman's Classic.
Oh, yeah. First race of the season for us anyway.
First race for, Dale and I. We're going to be heading over to Little Rock. And that's a race we've done, since?
It's had to be the last
long time.
6-8 years.
And it is hit or miss. This is one of those. We'll probably dive into this in one of our Coaches on Couches, but it's called Crosswinds, super flat course, but it's one of those where if that wind's howling, it can be devastating, and I think it can just get blown to pieces if the weather's calm and warm. It's snowed before, there's been some horrible days, but then there's been some 60-degree no wind days. So
I've raced in tights and I've raced in short sleeves and shorts. It's just a weird time of year.
Yeah, tights and the big ski gloves to stay warm. So it can go either way. We got our shout at instead of a shout out, right?
Yeah, sometimes you got to throw a shout at.
Which is fitting. What is it, Dale?
It's the weather.
It's
weather.
Killing us, man.
If there's anything that makes an endurance athlete want to jump off a cliff, it's forcing them to be inside every day of the week.
Because the last few days it's been under 40 or at 40 and raining.
Yes. And if it's not raining, it's gray as can be and cold.
Yeah.
And the roads are wet, and that's not a huge reason not to ride or run or whatever outside, but it's just nasty.
Just
and it starts
wears
to
on
just,
you.
yeah, it just starts to wear on you.
Yeah. There's probably people in like the frozen tundra that are like, what? What are you guys whining about?
Yeah.
I just checked your weather. It's 45 degrees there.
Well, yeah. When we used to, or when we worked with Bennett, Isabella up in Minnesota, Bennett would run in anything. He would run in sub-freezing temperatures and like have to run with the little spikes on his shoes, and he'd finish with icicles in his eyelashes and his face, and
we're pretty sure the whole reason was just to get the picture afterwards, right?
Yeah, well, Bennett is a dedicated, and he loves to run. So I don't think anything was going to stop him. But
so we'll just kind of dive into it today. So that's our problem. That's what we're going to be dealing with here today. And the reason, Dale and I were kind of talking about this late last week. It actually started a couple weeks ago when we had a nice weekend, and it was sunny. It was like 65 degrees. And just the comments we were receiving from our athletes after workouts was like, oh man, that's the best I felt. Such a nice weekend. I mean, we're seeing like new bests that are being hit. You could just feel like a level of enthusiasm step up. And it was because of the sunshine and warmth.
Yeah, we got one weekend where both days were really nice. Like even got up almost to 70. And people were like, I haven't seen them that excited about their training or happy. Like, it wasn't even the fact that they like hit a new best or anything like that. It was just the fact that their training was awesome, and most of them like didn't even mention the weather. That was the thing, like
that's right. Yeah,
like they didn't even mention the fact that the weather was better. It was just all about their training was just better. Like I felt so good. Like it was a great day. Yada yada. I mean, but I was the one who threw in, but the weather was awesome.
Exactly, yeah. So it's easy, and that weekend was an anomaly. So what we've been having is, I know my last two long rides, the feels like temperature has been, 14 one day degrees, and I think last Saturday it was like 22 or 24 degrees or something.
Yep.
And that's Fahrenheit, in case you're not on the Fahrenheit system. I'm pretty sure that's like negative 300 Kelvin or something like that.
Kelvins.
But yeah, going Kelvins. So a lot of people have been forced indoors. Yeah. So either due to really cold, some people, we've got some athletes who, when it gets that cold, being safe out on a bike is something that just doesn't happen. Yep. When blood flow is restricted, hands get so cold that you can't operate, for people that are cyclists or triathletes, operate your shifters, your brakes. It forces you indoors.
Yeah, quality, even like for runners and, for runners, quality outdoors, once it gets to be like close to freezing down there, like it's very hard you have to do a really exceptionally long warm up to get to the point where you feel good about doing like quality efforts. High intensity stuff. So exactly. I mean the weather, it's for some people they would go outside and do it in the gray and the cold, but they're just not going to get the quality, so they defer inside so they can get the quality, but it still weighs on them.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because training indoors is not nearly as fun, exciting, mentally stimulating as training outdoors.
Well, let's face it, most people don't get into endurance sports to be inside all of the time.
Exactly.
Nobody's specializing in indoor triathlon.
Yeah, so what we have here, we got people, ourselves included, who have been forced indoors. We're being forced onto the trainer, the treadmill. Swimmers are obviously used to spending time indoors. So, but we want to talk about, okay, so what are some tips that can kind of help you beat these winter blues? Things that we use, advice we give to our athletes, stuff we've learned from our athletes that our athletes have told us. So that's our goal today, is to kind of run through some tips that we have, things that we do to hopefully help you kick this last bit of winter, stay mentally okay, and come into spring and into summer with some good fitness and motivation, up at a higher level.
Yeah, I mean, the last little part to this is that for a lot of people, like goal races are way off. Like, especially for triathletes, your goal race, what if you've set them, you're probably at the earliest looking at May, for a goal race. So, you're still several months off, and that weighs on you. Like, well, I still have tons of time. Why am I, gonna, be so committed to indoor training when I could just wait till it gets warmer?
Exactly. And this is also a time of year that most people are kind of in that base building style phase, so most of your efforts aren't, super high intensity. You're not getting a huge variety in efforts.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like you're just pressing rewind and play. It's always, you feel like you're always doing sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
Or you can feel like that, but not after we give you these tips.
Yeah, go for it.
Not after we give you these tips. So number one thing you can do is just mix it up, cross training, doing strength, choosing events, maybe in line. Don't go out and say, you've never run and now you're going to go do a 10K.
Yeah.
But choose some events that are around you, and use that either as, a training, like a train through style race, maybe to help set, new zones, or to just go out and have fun and be around other people and maybe hit a workout that you wouldn't have hit otherwise because the weather was not conducive.
Yeah, for a lot of people, getting getting into a race is motivation enough, even if they're not like peak fitness. It's motivation enough to get out into crappy weather. And so, you do get that boost because you get back to that race setting. You get back to, for a lot of people, it's why they train is to race. And so, I put a lot of my triathletes, I make them pick out some 5Ks and 10Ks to do as assessment workouts over the kind of in the winter, but it's also to get them continue to have them in the race setting for a little bit of motivation to, keep training.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you see it on the calendar. So you're like, I got a race coming up in a couple of weeks. And just the excitement of race day and a way to practice routines and change things up. It's different from your ordinary. So that's something that can be very helpful. Next one, Dale, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah. So giving yourself some variety, and for most people, that'll mean going off-road. Versus, if you're a roadie on a road bike or a road runner or a trail runner or, a mountain biker, force yourself to do a little bit different discipline.
Exactly.
Spend some time in the trees. Because, when you're in the woods, you have more coverage from the wind. Getting off-road and varying the discipline, even though you're in the same sport. So a cyclist, a road cyclist on a mountain bike, you're still cycling, you're still putting out, wattage and expending effort, but it's just a little bit of different discipline to maybe help your brain say, okay, I'm doing something new, exciting.
Exactly.
So let's, get out there and do it.
And in line with that, so with variety, not only changing up discipline, but something as simple as changing up your route.
Oh, yeah.
Most people will start and leave from their house, right? I know for us, I do my best to never have to put my bike on my car and then drive to a place that I'm going to ride from. So I always like to leave from my house and ride, but that can tend to limit you. And you tend to do the same thing over and over again. So if you're training at the same zones and you're doing the same routes, or if you're indoors doing that too can mess with you. So changing up your routes, getting off-road obviously mixes things up a ton. Just adding that variety can be huge.
I've even got a few people that will ride their mountain bike on the road just to mix it up. So you may not have to, you're still expending, especially if you have a power meter on it, you're still expending that effort, and you can hit a same effort for the time, if that makes sense. You're holding the same zone for the amount of time. You're just not having to go as far away from home. You're not getting as far because naturally you're going to go slower on a mountain bike on a road. So,
Which is really helpful when the weather's cold. less
Yeah.
less wind speed
Yep.
you're generating, the effectively warmer it's going to feel for you.
Yep. Yeah, I had a ride. We had a ride, a team ride a couple weeks ago, where I left the house with the wrong gloves. I thought it was going to be warmer in the morning, and I knew it was going to warm up enough, but I put the wrong gloves on, and I was trying to get like an hour in before the team ride, and at one point I refused to go over 15 miles an hour because my hands were so cold that like I had to limit the speed just to not freeze. I actually stopped on the side of the road and got plastic bags from
Did you?
Yeah, people had thrown out the window. I got two plastic bags and wrapped around my hands just to get to the warmer part of the ride.
I wish there was a picture of that.
There's not.
Now, an option we don't have here in Memphis, but if you're someplace that actually has climbs, that's something that can be nice as well.
Yep.
I've done rides out in Colorado where the weather's been miserable,
Yep.
but you start pushing a high effort level on a climb when your speed is 6, 8, 10 miles an hour, and you'll be amazed at what kind of cold weather you can ride in at those temperatures.
Just remember, you have to come back down.
Exactly. No, that's Uber.
At 40,
Uber it, man. Uber
at
it.
40-something miles an hour.
Exactly. Take your newspaper,
Yeah.
like the old school Tour de
Oh,
France
yeah.
where they're shoving newspaper up their jerseys.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one. Workout partners.
Huge.
The saying that misery loves company is so true on this. So even like with our House of Pain cycling, we get feedback at the end of the year when we take it, and people are like, it's weird, even though I'm not there with the person that is also doing the class,
Yep.
just knowing that someone else is going through the same workout with me mentally makes it easier. And then you level that up when you actually have a person there with you.
Yep.
And then if you're getting outdoors, you have that extra layer of accountability. And I know for me personally, like a longer ride is so much easier to make happen when I've got another person there, because no one really wants to be the one that says we should go shorter today.
Yeah.
So having that other person, having someone to talk to, having that extra layer of accountability is one thing that I think is really helpful to keep the mind good.
Yeah. And I know I've talked about this before, but like having that person, like even if it's just one person that you lean on a little bit to, kick you in the pants when you're not really wanting to get out in the cold,
Mm-hmm.
and you can either text or call that person when you need the little push. And it really, groups are great, but it really only takes one training partner
Yep.
to, give you the nudge, especially if they're, more willing to get out in the cold than you are most of the time.
Sure.
They'll give you the reason pretty quickly, give you the reason why to get out and to suck it up and just get out there. Because it's always more fun when you get out there, even if it's cold. It's always more fun being outside when you're with others. It's not so much fun being outside alone, freezing your butt off.
Yeah, you probably didn't think about your frozen bagged hands once you got on the ride nearly as much, right?
No, I didn't.
You were distracted.
Yep.
All right, next one. Get the gear that you need and get outdoors if you can.
Yeah. I mean,
right? I mean, all you need is bags, we just learned.
You just need plastic bags.
Some plastic
and if
bags.
You have tons of those laying around. Yeah, you can. I actually saw a GCN video the other day where they put tinfoil on their feet to keep their feet warm in their shoes. I mean, I had thought about plastic bags, but I never thought about tinfoil.
And we've had athletes. Well, I just mentioned the newspaper thing. One of the people we coached, he will start rides, cold weather rides, with newspaper shoved up his jersey. And then, that's going to absorb some of the moisture if you do start sweating. It's going to keep you warm initially. Yep. Once you do start sweating, you can then dump it in a recycling bin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Because we're keeping it green over here.
Yep.
But invest in some gear that's going to allow you to ride at some lower temperatures. We've got some people who have been on our team in the past that Payne, one of the guys who moved to DC, I guess.
Yeah,
or was he in London? No, he was in London for like
for school. He was doing a study abroad thing. And weather there, I've heard, is pretty not fun.
What?
And they're like for a lot of places, it's like, so what do you do if it's going to be raining? And over there, it's like, well, if you constantly waited for a dry day to ride outside, you'd never ride outside. So you just get the gear and you accept the fact that, yeah, there's going to be times when it's cold and raining on you. Dress appropriate, have the proper stuff in place. These past super cold rides that I've done, I've had my winter gloves and I went and bought those, the chemical hand warmer things, and my hands have been sweaty. So good gear is worth its weight in gold. It lasts for a long time. I know the initial investment can be high, but the mental sanity you'll get by being able to ride that 10 degrees colder than what you're used to, or run at the, a temperature you normally wouldn't, is going to help save you from these winter blues. And there's still going to be times you're going to be indoors, but I think what wears on a lot of people is when you're always indoors. Every training session's indoors.
Yep. So the next point that we'll go to is, you are, let's just say it's just nasty outside and there's just not really a choice to get out there. Focus on quality over quantity. And we have a lot of people who the biggest dread for them is a long ride on the trainer or a long run on the treadmill. And we get it, but there are ways to simulate the fatigue of a long ride or run without actually having to do 3 hours on a trainer, 3 hours plus, or 2 hours plus on a treadmill. You can always focus on add in more tempo efforts, build the fatigue with several longer, like L3 or tempo, however you want to put it, efforts, and just build those over time. One of my favorite trainer workouts that help simulate more of like a 3-hour ride, I would say, is a descending zone 3 workout. So it's about 2 hours total, but you start at 10 minutes zone 3, and then you get 10 minutes. You don't ever get recovery. You just get
zone 2.
Zone 2, yeah. So it's 3 to 2.
Yeah, get rid of the zone 1 stuff that you usually get outside.
Yeah, 0.
You'd be amazed if you actually start taking a look at your data. You'd be amazed at how much time on a group ride or that you spend in zone 1, like 30%.
Yeah.
So if you cut out 30%, you could cut 30% of your time off by just making sure you're getting rid of that zone 1 stuff.
It's the truth. Yeah. So yeah, you start at 10 and you work your way down to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 minute in zone 3, 1 minute. So equal parts 2 to 3. And then once you roll through that, you're darn close to 2 hours.
And in line with that, doing your longer efforts first when you're mentally more fresh is a lot better than trying to save that super long one for late, where mentally you're like over it.
Yeah.
The more interesting you can keep things on the back end of that, the longer you're going to find that you're able to stay with it. And same with if you're on the treadmill.
Yeah. Anytime that I've done, because when I did the walking tall Big Hill Pond 50K, I had to train on the treadmill quite a bit just because we got a lot of rain. The trails were kind of trashed a lot, and I'm afraid of the trail Nazis knocking on my door. But also, it was just a family thing, like just trying not to be gone for hours on end, and what I just worked out. So whenever I needed to do a really long treadmill run, I would do varying hill work, and then also just I would run probably on the harder end of easy, like always try to run like my easy pace. I'd go on the hard end of that just to ideally
you're still recovering, but you're still putting some stress in.
You get the mileage in quicker, and then you throw in some hill work and stuff like that, and it goes by a whole lot quicker, So
definitely. Yeah, so quality over quantity if needed. If you're someone who can't stand, pushing out longer distance, just focus on the quality effort. Drive up your training stress by really, decreasing your recovery time, increasing that quality time, and that's going to still give you a good training benefit with hopefully allowing you to save your mind a little bit. And in line with that, shorter intervals. So if you're really in a spot where you're like, I don't want to, do shorter intervals. You may not have the mental capacity or the motivation to knock out a 30-minute block, but get on there and say, okay, I'm going to do 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off. And you'll be very surprised. Just keep telling yourself, I'm going to get through one more round of 60 on, 60 off, or 45 on, 15 off. But have that quality, have your recovery. And it's pretty amazing how if you're watching those quick intervals tick over, how quickly the time passes versus doing a 30-minute effort where you feel like you're 25 minutes into it and you look down and you're like, oh, it's 10 minutes in. So that's something I'll do on days where my motivation may not be super high and I don't want to hop on the trainer. I'm like, okay, well, ideally, I should be doing a 30-minute block, but instead, I'm going to push my effort a little bit harder and I'm going to do 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off, or manipulate it in some fashion like that. And that's going to allow you to get through a workout and still get some good quality, but also help you pass the time quicker.
Yeah, breaking it into small chunks like that is huge. Like the 60-second on and off, that's like one of my go-tos if I'm not like if I know I really need to be doing maybe some like 10, 20 minute intervals, but I'm maybe short on time or low on motivation, I'll go and defer to, one on, one off and crank it up to threshold or above and basically go one on, one off until my legs are really not having it. Yeah. And then I'll spin out the rest of the time as long as I can stand it. Basically.
Yeah, and then you can even say, okay, well, now I'm going to do 30s. Like, I'm going to even shorten the time even more. Yep. Like, that's a way you can play with it and add those, if you do have a long ride or a long effort you're supposed to be doing, add longer recovery. And as soon as you get bored of being at that effort, then start mixing up the variety, playing around for cyclists, playing around with cadence, playing around with standing versus seated. All of that can make it go quicker. But it's just when you're staying locked into one zone, one effort,
worst thing you can
cadence, one body position, one anything is gonna make it's. I think it's actually proven to slow time.
It is, yeah, and also implode your brain
and implode the brain.
Yeah.
All right, I think we covered that one sufficiently.
So this next point is really this is how I get through like pretty much all of my long indoor workouts. And it's just having having good movies or videos or like old races or podcasts like this one, maybe.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Is there a shameless plug?
There is. It's still here. Bang.
Shameless plug.
So, having those things to not necessarily, they're not meant to take your mind off of the work that you're doing, but when you get locked into like an interval or on a recovery, you can pay more attention to that, and you're not so focused on time. I know I've said it a million times. Like when I'm on the treadmill or I'm on the trainer, and I'm not I'm not teaching a hop class or something like that. That is my time to watch the Netflix series or whatever that my wife won't watch.
Yeah.
So pretty much any superhero Marvel. I'm almost finished with the next season of Punisher. It's good.
It's a good one.
If you're into that. Yeah.
My 3-year-old likes those, so I'll I'll have to share that with her.
Yeah. So like that, or like any movie that I've been wanting to watch that I know my wife will want no part in.
Yeah, it's like a time for you to disengage from other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And focus on yourself, do the things that you enjoy. So do something you wouldn't possibly be able to watch otherwise.
So for me, like getting on the trainer for 2+ hours just means that I get to watch a movie that I've been wanting to watch and just haven't had the opportunity yet. So it really does help me, get on there and
just viewing it that way, like view it as this is my time to watch a movie versus, oh man, I have to do 2 hours of trainer work or treadmill work or whatever. I mean, just the mindset you take into the workout and how you're approaching what you're doing is huge as well.
It's a cinematic
It's not always
adventure.
easy. It's not always easy, but it does help. I personally like race footage, so that's usually my go-to. It's either old Tour de France stuff. I love the Spring Classic, so I'm watching that. I actually enjoy watching just other amateur racing stuff too, and especially when they have like power overlays where you can kind of see the race and you can see the power, and if you want to get real crazy, mix things up, you can jump when they jump. You can vary your effort and you kind of feel like you're in a race. But whenever I'm like watching like an old Tour de France, like a sprint stage or whatever, it never fails. Like in the last 10K, my power just naturally like rises.
Yeah.
It's like I'm in the lead out train. I'm like bumping elbows with people. I'm like, watch out, Cavendish. I'm going to give you the sagging elbow here in a second. But it helps. I mean, it's something that distracts me, but it also motivates me because it's something, I guess I was always kind of that way growing up though. Like if I was watching football, I had to like play football.
Yeah.
If I watched the Ninja Turtles, I'd beat my sister up afterwards.
That's a good point.
So
for a lot of people, we didn't put this in the notes because neither of us are big Zwifters or anything like that. But that's another thing that getting in on some of the new virtual riding. I'd say new. It's been around a while. Getting into Zwift or some of the Trainer Road and stuff like that, and doing some of the virtual riding and stuff like that. All that stuff has helped a lot of people endure indoor training a lot more. Personally, I would rather watch a movie.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Much more entertaining than a small cycling, virtual cycling man going forward.
Yeah, for sure. But we've had a lot of people that do. I'm glad you brought that up. That do enjoy Zwift, and how it's been a very motivating thing. I will warn you that even though it's virtual, the juices can get flowing on that too. And it's easy to almost treat that like sometimes happens on group rides where you override consistently because there is that other actual person somewhere in the world that you can see on your screen and that you're trying to beat. So don't get sucked into getting too far pulled away from what you're supposed to be doing.
True.
Cool. So, moving on.
Yeah. These next few are things that we have to constantly remind athletes of. And one of them is like, don't beat yourself up if you're just less motivated to do stuff indoors, but just make sure, and this is our big C word coming in here, just make sure that you are staying consistent because something is always better than nothing. Get on the trainer, get on the treadmill, whatever, and just get started and do whatever you can. Like if you really mentally can't handle it, but 9 times out of 10, if you start, you're going to end up doing the workout. Yeah,
you'll end up doing more. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the starting. That's like for most people, you're tired of the weather outside. You're depressed because you're not getting any vitamin D and the sun hasn't been shining and it's raining and but if you just get started, you're going to continue on. Like most people's motivational or competitor within kicks in, like, yeah, I'm going, let's just do this.
And then start employing some of those other strategies, like start doing the shorter intervals. Use things to kind of help you push yourself a little longer in your workout if if you aren't motivated to do it. Next thing, become a weather person and know when there's going to be sunshine, when there's not, when it's going to be dry, when it's going to be rainy. And if that means you say you're at work, this is one of the things you suggested, if you're at work and you can't go exercise, but you see the sun's out, pretend you're taking a smoke break and get out for a 10-minute walk, right? I think that's what you said.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But get outside, take advantage of it. With one of my clients this morning, early morning, we actually saw the sun came up and it was like, what is that glowing orb off in the distance there? I hadn't seen my shadow in multiple days now.
Oh, wow.
And then when I went to my next client, the first thing she's like, oh my gosh, the sun is out. How nice is it? And it's like, you don't realize how big of an impact sunshine can have on you and your mood. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, if you see it out, just, like I said, go, or like you said, go take a break, go for a short walk. Like, even if you're in like an office complex, walk around the office, not inside, walk around the building, take a lap, and just absorb some of that sunshine. And you would be surprised how much that improves your mood and also your later motivation. Even if the sun goes away later in the day, like what we get a lot, you get 5 minutes of sunshine and then it's gray again. But it'll improve your mood and help your motivation for later in the day if you just get out and get it when you can.
And
luckily,
the other
we
thing,
have a few weathermen
shout out
on the
Scott McNeil,
yeah, shout out our buddy Scott McNeil, the weatherman,
the meteorologist.
Yeah, we got a couple of those in our pocket that
yeah, it's always
send
nice.
out those nice weekly emails on the weather.
In line with that, don't be afraid, if you are someone who maybe has a coach or you have a training program that you've designed or someone else has designed for you, don't be afraid to manipulate it a little bit in order to take advantage of, what may be an outdoor training session versus an indoor. So, for example, if, say Friday is a strength training day for you, but the sun is going to be out and it's going to be 70 degrees, swap that, see where you can kind of move that around. Maybe do your strength on a Thursday instead. Like, how can you do some small tweaks to your program to not mess things up? I mean, you don't want to be stacking all your bikes into one, 8-day or 4-day span or whatever. But can you move things around so that you can take advantage of outdoor riding versus, being stuck indoors? And if so, do so.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a coach, your coach should be able to answer that question for you pretty quickly. And
we work around that quite a bit for people.
Yeah, I mean, I get those emails all the time. Like, well, the weather's looking crappy on Saturday, but I'm going to have some extra time on Friday. Weather looks good. What can we do? Then we can move some things around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but if you're watching the weather, you have that opportunity to make some swaps early on and set yourself up to get more of that outdoor time, sunshine time, and really improve your overall motivation, like a lot.
Exactly. Oh, for sure. And remember that the weather isn't always right.
Yeah.
So plan accordingly. If you do out and it looks like it's supposed to be nice, but it's been really crappy, be prepared for crappy to come while you're out and exercising. So have that backup plan available in case the bottom drops out.
Yeah.
All right, we are on to our last one.
We actually missed a very important one.
Oh, we did miss one.
We missed a very important one.
This is a very important one.
So keep in mind that your training zones indoors are usually not going to align with what you can do outside. So it's like whenever we are working, like specifically with cycling or triathletes, like we test indoors and those zones are generally good for indoor training. Once we kind of figure out what the gap is between indoor and outdoor, we can shift those for both. But, I've seen a gap as much as 30 watts, like on a threshold, indoor versus outdoor. So just know, like if you jump into indoor training and you don't know why you can never hit your goals, it's probably because you just can't push as hard indoors. I mean, I had people email me last week, like, I just can't get my heart rate as high on the trainer.
Yep.
I'm like, that's normal. So
and on the treadmill.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and generally, personally, I don't run as fast, like perceived exertion at the same pace. I mean, and it depends on the treadmill and how it's calibrated and all that stuff.
And this is also person specific, but on the whole, we have found that most people do not.
I don't run, my easy pace is not as fast on the treadmill as it is outside. So, just know that there's going to be some skewing of the zones indoor versus out. And it only takes a little bit of, looking at your trends of indoor versus outdoor training.
And paying attention to perceived effort.
Right. To figure out what the gap is, and you can adjust your expectations
Exactly.
that way.
And the big reason why that has and can affect people is it can be morally defeating to not be able to hold a zone. So now you feel like you're getting weaker, and you don't feel like you're getting the duration that you normally would. So now you feel like you're not getting the volume, you're not getting the intensity.
Yep.
I'm losing fitness. What's going on?
Well, and it's, it can, if you're somebody who goes on power and looks at TSS, you're not going to get the same TSS score,
which for those that don't know what that is, that's called a training stress score. Yep. So intensity and duration.
It's a measurement of how how much stress that workout put on your body.
Yep.
So you're not going to get that same TSS value if your training zones are set for your outdoor, which would be higher, and then you're working out indoors a lot, so you're constantly hitting below your normal zones. So it's going to give you a lower value. Mm-hmm. So then all the other charts and everything else is going to be all jacked up, and so you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Oh, for sure.
over the winter when you're predominantly indoors. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to be able to push as hard. But if you're indoors a lot and you know that that's a good possibility, you should be testing indoors and then adjusting your zones. And then when you're outdoors, you may be a little higher. You might get a little bit higher TSS score for that one day.
Yep.
But on the whole, you're better off having a slightly higher TSS score on an outdoor ride than lower if you're training predominantly indoors.
Yeah.
And the same thing, once the summer starts or whatever and you're outdoors more, then you need to test outdoors and then realign your zones with outdoor, because you're not going to train indoor as much.
Yep.
And so when you're indoor, you get a little bit lower TSS score for that day, and no big deal.
And we tell people a lot, when you don't stress quite as much about, what is your power doing, your pace doing, whatever. Yeah. How are you improving relative to other people that you usually ride with? Because you're not going to push the same speed. Like the cold day that we had, my perceived effort last Saturday on the ride was a lot higher relative to the average speed, which I know, a lot of beginners are so concerned with average speed, which we usually don't pay any attention to. But even at power levels, like perceived effort was higher. Your body's working hard to try to stay warm. Things aren't moving as easily as they normally do. The air is denser, so don't get psyched out by any one metric. and instead, how over time, how are you improving relative to the people that you're training with? Don't beat yourself up if things aren't progressing quite like you want them to.
It's like weight loss. Don't go by the scale. Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
Exactly.
You can, are your pants getting a little looser? Mm-hmm. Well, do you feel like you're pushing a bigger gear? Regardless of what the wattage says, then good. I mean, just go on that. Last bit.
Now we're on the last one.
Yeah, we are.
Know that, maybe we should have started this one.
We probably should have started here.
Know that you are not alone in this. So us as coaches, we've been going through it. Our athletes, multiple athletes are going through it. People that I've once thought were unbreakable on the trainer. I actually just got comments from one who he did, for those that are up on training stress, he had over 700 TSS that he hit last week, which is a big week for a lot of people. Yep. All done indoors on a trainer.
That's huge for indoor.
That's a big indoor load. And the comment was, that mentally took a toll on me. Yeah. By the end of that Sunday after spending.
It's literally every year we have this conversation, and we've been doing this 10 years, and every year it's the same cycle. People are forced indoors. Their mood, it's almost like you're talking people off the off the ledge, constantly. That's what you spend the most of your time doing, and then all of a sudden you get peaks of sunshine and everybody's great. And it's just. It never fails. So just know it's coming.
It's coming.
And prepare for it. You're not alone. And, use some of the tips that we've thrown in there, previously to, defeat the enemy.
Mm-hmm. And this is one thing when the little outdoors presentation I did a couple weeks ago, it's just instead of getting so caught up in either you not doing as much as you want or improving as much as you want, the thing I kind of left people with there was just strive to be a slightly better than you were before, or do a little bit more than maybe you would have done otherwise. So just focus on, it may not be the best thing you could do, but just do that little bit better than maybe version 1.0 of you would have done. You're now version 2.0.
You could be 1.1.
1.1. All right. So what are your tips? Shoot us your tips. What do we miss? Comment if you're on Facebook. Comment.
Leave us
a message.
If you're on iTunes and you're listening to the podcast, leave us a review and put your comments in the review.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, if you are listening on the podcast that you were not able to see, is Dale's actually in jeans.
I am in jeans, yeah.
Which,
but in
that's
my
like business formal
in
for
my
our
defense,
line of work.
In my defense, because I knew you would bring this up, I've already prepared a defense. These are stretchy jeans.
Those are the pajama jeans?
These are stretchy jeans. And you can do just about, I could go for a run in these and be totally cool.
Secondary video coming up here in a second. Dale's going to go through a low body workout in his pajama pants.
Yeah, pajama jeans.
We've taken enough of your time today.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time. Adios.
Amigos and amigas.